Hello, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. Today we have an all new round of speed reviews. So before we get into it, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel before you leave. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy, and let's get into it. All right, so I am going to be ranking all of the products that I tried in the month of October. I also ordered a lot of products and there's been so many shipping delays. So some of the products that launched this month are going to be in my end of November speed reviews, which will be the last speed reviews before the year-end ranking. How crazy is that? But let's hop right into it. I have 11 products to rank, and coming in at number 11 is from Patrick Ta, and this is the Major Holiday Face Palette. So this one I wanted to love a lot more than I do. In fairness, I do have to be careful because one of these will fall out and I can never remember which one it is. So he kind of changed this up from previous years. The first year he came out with these face palettes, it was 3 different blush shades. Last year it was 2 blushes and a highlight. The highlight ended up being a major flop, and then this year he's got 2 blush shades and 4 sparkle toppers. I do find the sparkle toppers to be an interesting choice because I don't really see how they fit in with the blushes very well. I also think it's a little bit strange that he also released some individual sparkly topper shadows in addition to this. So I thought that was a bit of an interesting choice. I do like these blush shades. I think they're very pretty. They are pigmented, so you can blend them out and soften them up, but they are very pigmented. My favorite shade is the soft pink here, which is giving I Need Her. It's just a lot softer, more friendly for my skin tone. This middle one is nice, but definitely vibrant, so I personally have to be careful. These sparkle toppers are very beautiful, but I will mention if you're applying them, I would recommend wetting a brush, but I would also recommend doing your eyes first because there is quite a bit of fallout. You can probably see in my palette there is quite a bit of glitter dust all around here. I'm thankful for this plastic covering over the cream blushes because it does sort of protect that from the glitter dust. But the dust from the glitters does get into the powder shadows as well. I also found that a lot of people were getting theirs with the shade falling out. So I think that's unfortunate, and this is not the first palette I've had from Patrick Ta where a shade has fallen out. So I do think they need to do something a little bit better with their packaging. As for the quality of the blushes, this is not the formula that is in his individual blush pans. This is the formula that was in last year's blush palette. So if you don't like that one as much, you would probably want to skip this one. The blushes are very powdery and the creams are a lot more sheer than what is in his individual formula. So I don't mind that the creams are sheer because it does make them a little less impactful. And I'm just not somebody who enjoys a very, very vibrant blush. So for me, I don't mind this blush formula at all. It's just the shades are very, very bright. And I don't love that he put these sparkly toppers in here with the blushes. I think they're too messy, and I think there's absolutely no way to prevent them from fully getting into the blushes, and I think in the end it's just kind of a mess. So I don't love it. The quality's fine. It's just a little bit too messy than what I would appreciate. And this month is actually quite hard because I tried a lot of really great products. So coming in at number 10 is from Pat McGrath, and this is her Jeweled Temptation eyeshadow palette. So she released a very eyeshadow heavy holiday collection. She did release 2 of these mega palettes, and each one comes with 9 eyeshadow shades and 2 blushes. You will see the other palette a little bit later on in this ranking. I find it interesting that we've had a couple of brands release face palettes this year, like Patrick Ta. There's eye and cheek products in there, and same with Pat McGrath. I find that interesting because to me, I've always found that when brands do that, I feel like it sort of cheapens the product. However, with Pat McGrath, I was happy about it because her blush formula is one of my absolute favorites. And in purchasing the 2 large palettes for holiday, I ended up getting 4 brand new blush shades that I didn't have already. So I am happy about that. The quality of the palette is fine. So the eyeshadows in here are actually made in the US, so they're not her Italian formula. So they're definitely not, they're not a bad formula by any means, but they're not the formula that is in her Motherships and her little 5-pan quints. That is a little disappointing just because her Italian formula is part of what makes Pat McGrath so special. I definitely had a lot of fun playing with these eyeshadows. The shade up here is really, really beautiful and impactful, but for me, The clear winner is the two blushes. I just love them. I think they're absolutely fabulous. This has Desert Amber and Paradise Venus. Every time I get these deeper blush shades from Pat McGrath, I think that I'm not going to end up liking them very much, but I always do. I am very happy to have her blush shades. The eyeshadows, I'm glad that she threw in a purple, but I would have liked to see maybe a little bit more purple. I just don't feel like this is going to be my most reach for color story from Pat McGrath, but I will definitely be reaching for this palette for those blushes. Coming in at number 9 is a brand that does not normally rank low in my monthly rankings. This is from Natasha Denona, and this is the Xenon palette. So this is her newest release. I think my last video was my review of this palette. So like I said, nothing in this ranking is a bad product, really. This one is just basically not a color story that I'm going to reach for a ton. I really had to work to get some creative looks out of this palette because there's a lot of shades of gray in here. There are some shades that she describes to be more pinky tone that just really aren't. Neve, I can't remember where I saw it, but this shade was described as like a peony pink. It's an icy white. The only really pink shade in here is Snowbow, and it is a really beautiful light pink, but it's got a blue reflect, and if you use it on its own all over the lid, I find it ends up looking like a white silver. The formulas in here are absolutely wonderful. I am definitely not somebody who reaches for these smoky gray looks very often, so for me this just isn't going to be my most used palette. But like I said, I really had to push myself and push my creativity to be able to create 5 different looks with this, and I had a lot of fun doing that. But I do feel like there's a lot of very similar shades in here. My review video I almost didn't post because the first 2 looks I created, I used all different shades for each look and the looks looked almost identical. So I initially felt like nobody would want to see that. I did end up going on to create a halo eye, and I did something with Ebb and Snowbow and came up with this really cool blue look, which I loved. So I think this is beautiful. I think her formulas in here are so great. She's got some of her sparkling foiled formula. She's got some of her new sparkling wet effect, which I love. I think she did do an amazing job with formula. And I even said, I think only Natasha could get me to buy a gray and white and black eyeshadow palette when that's just not my thing, but only Natasha could get me to do that. But if you have the mini Xenon or you were kind of on the fence, I think you could safely skip this one because again, it just doesn't have the most amount of range in my opinion. I think whatever you were going to create with this one, I think you could get it done with the mini. So I like it. Formula wise, it's great. It's just not going to be the most reach for Natasha palette in my collection. Coming in at number 8, this is actually kind of 3 products, but I picked up the LYS cream blush set from Sephora, and I did already toss the packaging, but this comes with 3 of their cream blushes. I picked this set up last year too because I really do like their cream blush formula. So we have 3 shades in here. We get Humble, which is like a bright coral pink. So it just looks like this. Their blushes are incredibly pigmented. Then we get Self-Love Shimmer, and this is actually the one I'm wearing today. So it's kind of like a deeper nude, and even though it describes itself as being a shimmer blush, it's really not. It's just kind of glowy. It's really, really not that shimmery, but I would say that's it. The rest of them are matte. This one just has a bit of a glow. This one, I love the way it's got kind of like a nude mauve laydown. Again, this is what I'm wearing today, and I think it's really pretty. With these, you do have to be careful because they are very pigmented, so I always recommend going in very, very lightly. And the last shade is actually called Unique, so it's like this deep berry purple. And in the pan, it looks incredibly intimidating, but on the skin, it's just this really beautiful berry. But I find when I put this color in particular on the cheeks, it's kind of like a bright fuchsia. It doesn't look purple, it just pulls more of a bright fuchsia, which is still not the type of shade I like to wear. So this is definitely not going to be my favorite blush shade, but I do think it's going to be one that is great for different skin tones, which I think adds a lot of value to this little set. So I think this set is really pretty. I love that we have shades that are great for any time of year. In particular, this is a very summery blush to me. This one is kind of very fall, and this one also very fall winter. Again, the formula is very long wearing. It looks beautiful on the skin. It's so easy to blend out. It is very pigmented, so you really don't need a ton. I still reach for the ones that I got last year. I still absolutely love them. So the only difference between these is that they have these clear lids, whereas the ones in their permanent packaging have that rose gold packaging. I kind of prefer this because I like to see what color I'm grabbing for. So I do really love this formula. Coming in at number 7 is from Charlotte Tilbury, and this is the Hollywood Blush and Glow Glide Palette. So this is part of her holiday collection. So this is a mini, and this is a really beautiful little duo. So we have this blush here, and then we have a highlight. So in the same packaging as her Film Star Bronze and Glow, this is the blush, and the highlight has a rosy tone to it. I do love the highlight. To the touch, the highlight feels like it's almost got that sort of putty type feel. The blush is very pretty. It's definitely very vibrant, so it's probably not my most used blush. Again, I love a good nude blush. I also tend to gravitate toward the pinks a little bit more as well. But the formula in here I think is still very, very beautiful, easy to work with, looks so pretty and flattering on the skin. I really do love it. I think it's beautiful. My only complaint with this was that I found it to be a little bit expensive for what it is. I mean, it is tiny. Just for comparison's sake, it's about the palm of my hand. I know this retails for about $29 US, which doesn't sound too bad at all, especially for Charlotte Tilbury. But in Canada, this is $42, which I think is expensive for this. But I think it's still a fabulous, fabulous product. Coming in at number 6 is from Urban Decay, and this is one of their Moondust quads. This one is in Space Rider. So they did come out with 2 of these. I only have this one. This is, like I mentioned, in Space Rider. So this has 4 of their Moondust Topper shadows, and these are beautiful. I do have a full review up of most of these products, and I think this is so pretty. I think if you are wanting to grab a couple of shades of their Moondust shadows, because they've been incredibly popular lately, I think this is a great way to do that, because I do think this is a much better value than buying individual shades. I think you'll definitely save some here. These shades are all so beautiful. We start out pretty light with Star Cowgirl. It's kind of like a champagne. Then we have the classic Space Cowboy. Then we have Wild Dipper Rides Again, which is like a pink. And then Cosmic Space Dust, which is kind of like a khaki. Absolutely beautiful. I did mention in my review, I felt like these have quite a bit of fallout. And you can fix some of that by using a wet brush, but I find I still get a little bit of fallout. So I do prefer using fingers with shimmer shadows. That's just always been my preference. But you can use a wet brush, and it does help the fallout a little bit. I find I still get some though, so I just wanted to mention that. However, I do think this is absolutely beautiful. I think it's a great value. I don't know that I would actually buy both of the palettes they came out with. I find they launched these a little bit weird. This one launched at Sephora Canada and nowhere else, and then the other palette came out. I think they might now both be fully available, but I can't quite remember. So I do think these are great. If you're looking for some really great shadow toppers, I really do enjoy these. I would recommend these over the ones in the Patrick Ta for sure. I just think these are great. They're so pretty. Space Cowboy I like because it has sort of like a wet effect to it, which I think is really, really pretty. Overall, I'm glad I have this one. This is one that's going to live on my makeup desk in case I'm ever just looking for that sparkly topper. I know I'll be able to find what I want in here. So I do think this is great. I have really enjoyed playing with it. At number 5, we have the other Pat McGrath Mega Palette, and this one is in Starstruck Splendor. So this one also has 2 blushes. We get Nymphette and Coral Cosmos. Nymphette is a shade I wanted for a while because it reminded me of a glowier version of Flirtatious, which is my absolute favorite shade. Coral Cosmos isn't as intimidating on the cheeks as it looks in the pan. It's very, very pretty. I love the eyeshadows in here, especially because the greens I was very, very excited about. I love green eyeshadow. I think it's so pretty. So this is one of my absolute favorite shades. I like the blushes in this one a little bit more than the other one just because they are a little bit lighter. So I do enjoy that. The neutrals in here are great. same comments toward the eyeshadow formula. It's not her best formula, but it's not a bad formula by any means. But I do like this one much more. It's just a little bit more geared toward my skin tone. The blushes are beautiful, the greens, and this particular shade right here I absolutely love. So this palette was without a doubt my favorite between the two. I was debating on trying out the Quince that came out in the same collection. I absolutely loved the Quince last year, so I was thinking about it this year. I might still, maybe for Black Friday or something like that, but for now I just have these two and I'm glad I do. Coming in at number 4 is from Alter Ego, and this is their Mirage eyeshadow palette. And I honestly think that Alter Ego is becoming one of my favorite affordable eyeshadow formulas. I think their formula is so good. So this is supposed to be a dupe for the Huda Beauty Empowered palette, which I actually skipped out on last year because I thought it looked a little bit too deep and too intense for me. However, I did see a lot of people having rave reviews about it, and I kind of felt a little disappointed that I missed out. I was kind of initially thinking that maybe I would pick it up this Black Friday, but then Alter Ego sent this over. So I'm not able to speak to whether the shades are exact 100% dupes. I do think that when they do these alternatives to the high-end palettes, there are some slight tonal differences in the shades, so they're not 100% exact, but on the eyes you really don't notice. And they even try to dupe the different textures in Huda's palettes, and I think Huda is the queen of texture. So I think for being able to recreate a lot of these textures as well as they did, I'm so impressed. So they did do the cream shades in here. We have the mattes, we have these beautiful high impact shimmers, and then there's also this gel shade right here, which is so interesting and I didn't think I would like, but I ended up super loving it on the lid. It does end up being a very, very foiled shade. Again, I do have a full review of this one, but you can see from that review that I absolutely fell in love with this palette. Again, it's a little on the deeper side. I do think it's a wonderful fall palette, and I really do love the textures in here. I think they did such a good job, and the color story, I was so pleasantly surprised with how actually easy it was for me to work with their color stories. Another thing I have to say about Alter Ego in particular is the way that they lay out their palettes. So while the color story might be a dupe, they also do rearrange things, and they always make the color story make more sense. So I love that, and I always appreciate that. So I have to put Alter Ego at number 4. At number 3 is another LYS product, and this is their new Secure Brow Shape and Hold Clear Brow Gel. So I don't really review a ton of brow products. I tend to just find something that works and just stick with it. But I do think it's hard to find the perfect brow gel sometimes. I like one that is going to hold my brows in place where I put them, not let them drop throughout the day, that is also going to be clear, that isn't going to make them look like they're glued down and make them look crunchy and all of those types of things. And this really meets me in the middle with that. I remember the NYX Brow Glue. I liked that one, but it was also just very, very intense, and if you got too much, you would know about it. I've been using the Charlotte Tilbury for a little while, and that one's nice in that it does set the brows in place, and it never lets the brows look crunchy, but it doesn't give the best hold. This is your perfect middle ground in that it doesn't let the brows look crunchy or gloppy, but it also does just lock the brows in place. Like when I touch my brows, I know I have something in them, but I can also feel that they are not going anywhere. If you like the more laminated brow effect, I don't know if this would do that, but that's just not something that I do on myself. My perfect shape is the way I've done it today. I'm having a very good brow day, but this has been the absolute most perfect brow gel. I don't normally go crazy about brow products. I don't normally get excited about different things like that, but something told me to pick this one up, and I'm so glad I did because it is my absolute new favorite brow gel. I've been loving it so much. The packaging is really cute as well. But again, I just think it's absolutely fabulous. It just does everything I want it to do. So I can't recommend this one enough if you have similar brow preferences to me. Coming in at number 2 is from Charlotte Tilbury, and this is the Beautyverse eyeshadow palette. So this one I also tried at the very end of September, but I had already filmed my September speed reviews. This palette I think is absolutely beautiful. So this is a new layout for Charlotte Tilbury's eyeshadow palettes. Normally she has like the long skinny 12 pans, but this year she came out with this, and at first I wasn't sure what to think, especially after seeing it in photos. But after testing the formula, 100%. So first of all, the packaging is so pretty. And then opening this up, you get 4 mattes in here, 4 metallics, and a sparkle topper. So this is what I have on my eyes today. And I will say these first 3 browns are more like a cream to powder formula, much like you would see in the Natasha Denona palettes when she throws in that formula. This pink one is more of a classic matte. This silver is almost like a wet feeling silver. I mean, look at that shine. The bottom 3 are a little bit drier, but also just very impactful and beautiful and shiny. This sparkle topper is so pretty as well. It really does add such a beautiful sparkle. So today I have this shade, this shade, this shade, and this one. And I feel so pulled together. I absolutely love this. I love the shine, I love the shimmer, I love the formula. I had a couple of people tell me that this formula has been done in her Icon palette, which is not one that I ever personally had, but I absolutely love this formula from Charlotte, and I would love to see her have a lot more of this type of formula in her palettes going forward, because her matte formula is great, but this cream to powder matte formula is so great. I absolutely loved it. So I can't say enough good things about the formula in here. This palette is absolutely stunning. I absolutely love it. And I'm shocked that there is one product that I liked a little bit better. And this is from Hourglass. This is their Ambient Lighting Edit Unlocked palette in the Jellyfish. So this is the lightest one that they came out with. And this one really snuck up on me as a favorite. So I haven't ordered one of these palettes in a couple of years, but this truly snuck up on me as a favorite. These blush shades are really beautiful. This blush is the one I've been reaching for very frequently. It's just a really pretty, it's kind of like a nude kind of shade. It's just very flattering and it goes with everything, and I've really been loving it. The bronzer is a little bit warmer than I typically like, but it's still very good. I know I love these finishing powders, but what's really got me in a chokehold is this highlight. I don't know, it looks like absolutely nothing in a swatch, but on the cheeks there is just something about the way that it melts in and works with every single blush, and it's just so beautiful. It's metallic without being sparkly. It's just incredibly smooth and it looks so nice on the skin. I absolutely love it. I should not be surprised that I love this palette as much as I do, because I really do love the Hourglass powder formula, but I don't like the price tag on these, of course. However, I do think it's worth it. I do think it's worth it, especially right now when the Sephora sale is going on. If you're wanting to pick up one of these, I don't think you'll be sorry, because the formulas in here actually are so good. And I love that this year they came out with 3 different ones. So there's one that is better for deeper skin tones, there's one for medium, and then there is this one for us very light skin tones. So I've absolutely been loving this. But that is it for me today. Let me know down below if you tried any of these. What was your favorite product you tried out maybe in the month of October? Let me know. I love hearing from you guys so much. If you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. I do upload at least 3 new videos every single week. Thank you again so very much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!